I'm Varun Daga, and today I'm going to take up the topic neuroscience and brainwaves and chakras. Let's begin with neuroscience. Today, in neuroscience, we're just going to understand what is the potential of our brain, what is the function of our brain, what happens inside our brain, and how our brain is the most mind blowing organ in the universe, how it is the superconductor of consciousness, and how important it is to use our brain to understand how it functions to change your life. You can actually literally change your brain physically, and when you do that you can change your life. So we're going to take you through the science behind it, the physics behind it, and the biology behind it, how it really works and what exactly happens inside your brain. So your brain actually generates more electric current in a day than all the cell phones to put together in the world. That's even after the launch of Geo. So just imagine, in a single day, you have more electric current than all the cell phones put together in one single brain. Your brain receives over 400 billion bits of information every second. However, you can comprehend only 2000 bits of this information, and you can understand them. So, we are not ready to understand all the information that our brain receives. And as we become more and more aware and more conscious, we can understand all the information what our brain gives us. So, what is our brain really made up of? Our brain is made up of neurons. Neurons is the simplest functional unit of the nervous system. The neurons possess a unique ability to store and communicate information between each other. So, it's very simply put, friends, our brain is filled with neurons in it, and every time you learn something new, you exchange information. One part of the neuron is making connections with the other part of the neurons, and they are constantly exchanging information. So if you take a scoop of gray matter, if you take a scoop of brain, a scoop of gray matter as small as or as tiny as a grain of a sand, there are over 100,000 neurons in it with over a billion connections. That's just a scoop of gray matter, as small as a sand, a grain of sand. So there are over 100,000 neurons with over 1 billion connections. These neurons are not two-dimensional, they are actually three-dimensional, and they communicate in all directions. So so every time these neurons are exchanging information with each other, and every time you learn something new, one neuron connects with another, and it transfers information uh, inside your brain. So the biggest, and you must memorize this, the biggest principle in neuroscience is nerve cells that fire together, wire together. I'll repeat that, friends. Nerve cells that fire together, wire together. So what happens is that as you fire and wire information, and as you repeat these information, finally they seal together. That's why uh, whenever you learn something new, you fire that information in your brain, you make connections in your brain, and when you repeat these things again and again, they actually seal and becomes a part of your brain. So in the year 2000, there was a Nobel Prize winner, Condell, and he discovered that just a few bit of new information can double your connections in the brain from about 1300 connection to 2600 new connections. So every time you learn something new, you make new synaptic connections in your brain. And that is what learning is, friends. Learning is making new synaptic connections in your brain. Learning is making one neuron connect with another neuron, and every time you learn something new, you will make these connections inside your brain. There's a physical action that happens in your brain when you learn something new. So as we speak right now, you're learning something new, your brain is working, and you are making new synaptic connections in your brain. And the brain and the neurons are just like any relationship. They like to communicate and they like to bond together. So their neurons are exactly the same way as we are. We like to communicate and we like to bond together. So they want to develop long term relationships. And what makes them develop long term relationship is repetition. So when you repeat any action over and over again, and that is when remembering happens. So remembering is maintaining these synaptic connections, maintaining the connections which you have made in your brain. And remembering is what, when you repeat anything again and again, whatever you have learned by making synaptic connections, remembering is basically maintaining those connections in your brain. So I will clarify all these concepts. These are very, very simple things, but it will really help in understanding as we move forward. So there are two ways we make connections in our brain. There are two ways we make these synaptic connection. The first way is called semantic memories. It's also called information theory, knowledge, philosophy. So every time you learn something new, you make these synaptic connections in your brain. So what are semantic memories? So let's say you read a book, you hear any information, you get any type of knowledge. These are semantic memories, and this is the way you make connections in your brain. The second way you make connections in your brain is called episodic memories. So the first was semantic memories, which is knowledge, information, theory, philosophy. The second is episodic memories. What are episodic memories? So episodic memories are basically having novel experiences, embracing new events in life. So for example, your wedding day. You will never forget your wedding day, or the moment your child was born. Uh, so the feeling was so intense. This feeling was so intense in your brain that you will not forget it, and it is like an episode in your brain that it created a memory. So if you ask an American where was he on 9/11, the incident was so stark and so big that it created an episode in the brain, and that's why it's called episodic memory. So there are two ways we make connections. One is semantic memories, and the other is episodic memories. So basically, there are two types of memory system in our brain. The first type of memory system is called declarative memory. So, what are declarative memories? The declarative memories are basically memories that you can declare. It's as simple as that. So, there are two types of declarative memories. One is called knowledge, the other is called experience. So, declarative memories are also called explicit memory, or it is the seat of your conscious awareness. So why is it called declarative memory? Because it is something you can explain, you can declare. For example, the first type is called knowledge. So what is knowledge? Knowledge is basically information that you learn, information that you have received, any philosophy, any knowledge you have learned. So let me give you an example. What knowledge is? Knowledge basically, let's say you have read a book on how to be wealthy. You read a book on how to be happy. You read a book on how to be healthy, or you learn how to be a patient parent. And all that information is gets stored as knowledge in your brain, and it gets stored in your analytical intellectual neocortex. So the first brain, when you learn something, that information gets stored in your first brain, which is called the neocortex. So friends, it's very important to remember that there are three brains in our body. The first brain is the three memory systems. So the first is called the thinking brain. Okay, the thinking brain is whenever you learn something new, whenever you learn some kind of knowledge, you store all that information in the neocortex, which is the thinking brain. Now, fine, you've read a book on how to be healthy, and it's the book says that, okay, to be healthy, you have to run 5 kilometers every day, you have to do yoga for half an hour, you have to meditate, and you have learned all that information, and all that information has gone inside your neocortex. Now you know what you're supposed to do to be healthy. Now, but that is not enough. Knowing is not enough. Now, to apply that information that you have learned, you have to personalize that knowledge, and you have to demonstrate something. So you are going to change your behavior, or you're going to modify your behavior in some way. So if you modify your action or do something different, so you learned how to be healthy, and you actually go out and run 5 kilometers. So you had to modify your action in some way. You actually went out and and did what you learned. So when you performed something what you learned, you modified your behavior or your action in some way, and that's when you have an experience. And the moment you have an experience, you create a new feeling. So understand, friends, the first thing was about learning, which goes into your neocortex, your thinking brain. That's when you learned how to be healthy. Now you have actually experienced being healthy. And when you experienced being healthy, you had a feeling. And the moment you create that feeling, you activate your second brain, which is the feeling brain, which is called the limbic brain. So once you perform the action and have an experience, that's when you activate your second brain, which is the limbic brain, or it's called the feeling brain. So when the mind and the body are working together, you actually feel healthy. When you learned all the information how to be healthy, and you go out and you run for 5 kilometers, you actually felt healthy, and you felt it in your heart because you performed what you actually learned. So the emotional quotient, which is the feeling, teaches your body to understand what your mind has intellectually understood. So, friends, I'll repeat that the emotional quotient, uh, which is the feeling, teaches your body to understand what your mind has intellectually understood. So, it was no more knowledge, it is you have converted that knowledge into feeling, you have had an experience. So, you can say that knowledge is for the mind and the experience is for the body, right? So, knowledge is for the mind and the experiences for the body, the feeling is for the body. And in that moment, when you made that run and when you ran that 5 kilometers, you are embodying that knowledge. So in that moment, you have actually embodied that knowledge, you have demonstrated what you learned. But so that's when you have an experience, that's how you activate your second brain, which is the limbic brain. But it is not okay to do it once. You did the run one time, two times, three times, but when you repeat that action over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, it becomes non-declarative. So suddenly something which you can declare through knowledge and experience, when you repeat that action over and over again, now it has become non-declarative, it's become implicit, it's become unconscious, it's gone into your subconscious. So when that happens, when you repeat something that you have learned and you have experienced, and when you repeat that experience over and over again many times through days and months and years, that becomes a skill or a habit. Then it becomes a behavior, it becomes an attitude, an emotional reaction, it becomes conditional. And then at that moment, when you repeat something enough times, you you activate your third brain, which is called the being brain or the cerebrum. So why is it so important to activate the third brain, and why this, from thinking to feeling to being? Because when you repeat something over and over again, it actually goes into your subconscious. Then you don't have to it is no more an effort anymore, it has just gone into your subconscious. It's like brushing your teeth, or driving a car, or having a bath. It's just a part of you. And 95% of who we are is actually in this cerebrum, which is the non-declarative brain. And 95% of what we do in our life is through this non-declarative brain, which is actually a part of our skill, habit, behavior, attitude. So that's why are we showing you this? Because it is very important to understand how can you create, just from thinking to feeling to being, how can you get into the subconscious and and create something which is a skill, a habit, and how you can get into the subconscious and change from the subconscious. It is the act of repetition which really gets into the subconscious. So, and that's when it becomes automatic, it becomes who you are. And you condition your body to the new mind when you do that over and over again. So these are the three brains, friends. Let me repeat it. The first brain is the thinking brain, the neocortex. It's the largest in human beings. uh, After the human beings is the dolphins. 40% of the brain is the neocortex. This is our ability to learn knowledge, to understand information. There is it is the most advanced form of machinery that the universe has ever seen. So that is the first thinking brain. It's called the neocortex. The feeling brain, which is the limbic brain. So when you experience something that you have learned, that information gets stored in the feeling brain, which is the limbic brain. And when you repeat that information over and over again, it goes into the subconscious. Goes into the being brain, which is the cerebrum, which is uh, which is a part of your subconscious. And 95% of who we are, uh, we function from the subconscious. We are in a program. We work out of this program. Our mind doesn't have control over our actions, because so many times we just wake up, we go to the bathroom, we brush our teeth and have a bath, and sometimes you don't even realize that you did it, right? Because it was so, your body just woke up and took you there, and it just happened, right? So it you really didn't use your brains, you were actually in a program. So you can really work and understand this program through this process of thinking, feeling, and being. You can get into the program and change from inside out. So guys, three brains: the neocortex, the limbic brain, and the cerebrum. So let me move forward, friends. So let me just go through a few concepts in neuroscience. We just try to simplify it in a very, very simple way, what it really means, and then we can always go into more detail. But the idea is to give you an understanding of how powerful our brain is, and how our thoughts can change exactly what happens in our brain. So so the first concept is neurorigidity. What is neurorigidity? Neurorigidity is basically, in a simple way, is is not learning from experience. It's just being rigid, right? That's what neurorigidity is. Neurorigidity is basically only using our brain's pre-wired connections or memories without making any new connections. Rigidity is to process the same thoughts and to perform the same action and expect a different result. So if you keep on doing one thing over and over again in your life, you cannot expect a very different result, right? So it's not going to change. If you keep, if you expect that you want a big change in your life, and if you're in the box and keep on repeating the same thing, that change is not going to happen. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you have the same coffee, you go to the office, meet the same people who push the same genetic buttons, and your life remains the same through and through, year after year, and nothing really changes, right? And you cannot expect a very different result. So that's what neurorigidity is. Nerve growth factor, this is a very important concept, friends, and this is a very real concept. The chemical glue, the nerve growth factor is the chemical glue or the miracle glue that makes the connection which we make in our brain stick together and become more and more enriched and flourish. So basically, the chemical glue, these are called neurotrophins. So every time you learn something new, you release these neurotrophins in your brains, and this is the chemical glue that makes one memory stick to another, or one neuron stick to another's neuron as you learn new information. So it's very important. The neurotrophins is, this is also, it gets released more and more when you repeat an information, and the neurotrophins is what binds and cements the knowledge, what binds and cements the philosophy by the art of repetition. So this is the chemical glue which is required for cementing. As we know, the biggest concept is nerve cells that fire together, wire together. This is the neurotrophin. The neurotrophin helps uh, to wire the connection, to cement and bind the connection together inside your brain. So let me repeat what neurorigidity is. So basically, friends, neurorigidity is thinking inside the box. It's making uh, the brain fire in the same sequence, in the same pattern, and in the same combination over and over again through many years of life. So it's basically you're basically putting your brain in a finite signature. It's not getting out of the box. It's basically inside the box. So if your thoughts, choices, behavior, and experience and emotional state remains the same year after year, and the same thoughts are always equal to the same feelings, reinforcing the same endless cycle, then your brain becomes hardwired to a finite signature. And the totality of these hardwired circuits is called your identity. So that's, friends, that's what creates your identity, because your brain has fired and wired in the same way that it has created your identity. So there is a way to keep your identity as the same, or you can change the hardwired connections in your brain and change your identity. So so if these hardwired connections make your identity, then there should be a way to change your identity by changing the hardwired connections in your brain. And that's what neuroplasticity is, friends. So what is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is basically, you can say, it's like the, in simple words, it's like the opposite of neurorigidity. Neuroplasticity is our brain's ability to change its synaptic wiring by learning new information and recording new experience, and to maintain a modified state of being. So like right now, you are learning new information, you're recording new experience, and your brain is literally changing. So when you learn new things and begin to think in new ways, you're making your brain fire in different sequences, and different patterns and combination. And when that happens, you're actually physically changing your brain, and there are physical changes happening inside your brain. So as we speak right now, you're learning new information. There are physically you're making new connections in your brain, and you're there are physical changes happening in your brain as we speak right now. So that's what neuroplasticity is. So neurorigidity was thinking in the box. Neuroplasticity is thinking outside the box. So as you begin to think outside the box, new thoughts would lead to new choices. New choices would lead to new behaviors. New behavior would lead to new experiences, and new experiences would lead to new emotion. And now your identity is also changing. So friends, just imagine it all starts with a new thought. It all started with that book where you read how to be healthy. You read the book. You made the run. You made a new connection in your brain about how to be healthy. You experienced it by making that run. And when you ran, you know for many days, for 40 days, 50 days, every day, it became a part of your behavior. It became an experience, and it went into your subconscious. And that's when your identity also started changing. So plasticity is basically learning new things, creating new experiences, making new memories, and making the brain fire in new ways. And I'm telling you, friends, this is one of the most important thing to enjoy life, is to learn every day. You tell your kids what are the new things you learned. And why are kids always happy, or always in that mood? Because they're always learning new information, right? As you grow up, after the age of 35, 95% of who we are is the same as you were before. So after an age, you actually stop learning new information. So so the way to feel young, the way to feel excited, to love life, is to learn new information, to have new knowledge, to have new experiences, and that's when you experience neuroplasticity, and you make your brain fire in new ways. And the only ingredient that makes you do that and allows you to do that is knowledge and information. So it's very important to learn new knowledge and new information. And learning is a lifelong process, right? And the more you learn, uh, the more you grow, and the more your brain develops. Okay, I got a little sidetracked, but let me get back into neuroscience again. So, uh, so guys, that was neurorigidity and neuroplasticity. Now, there are two laws of the brain. It's very important to understand what are the two laws of the brain. How does our brain really function? How does our brain really learn? How does our brain really remember? So just remember these two laws of the brain. The first law of the brain is called the law of association. This is the way we learn. So what is the law of association? So as we were kids, we first learned the alphabets. Then we learned letters. Then we learned words. And then we started connecting those words and started making sentences. So we used a lot of law of association to learn new things. We started connecting one thing to another, and we use the law of association. We use the memories or the information which are stored in our brain, which are already stored in our brain, to learn new information. We used what's already wired in our brain to wire new information. So something which is already known to our brain, we use that to learn what is unknown. So just think about it like a landmark, for example. So let's say you say, okay, my house is near ITC hotel. So the first time, you explain anybody, you give him one of the landmarks. Why? Because he uses the law of association to learn the new information. So when you use the law of association, you use something which is already stored in your brain to learn something new. So that's why we always use the law of association. So for example, if somebody told you about a new person, and you always store his name in your, you use that, okay, reference, Varun Daga, or whoever gave you that reference of that person, when you store it in your no, in your contact list, you use that person's association or the pre, so that you remember new information, right? So the law of association is the first way to learn something new, is the way how we learn something new. So by this logic, it's very important what we really associate ourselves to. So imagine you, you read about great masters, you read about Mahatma Gandhi, you read about all his philosophies, or you read about Nelson Mandela, you know and when you read about his story, he was in prison for 27 years, and what really happened, and it's extremely inspiring. So what when you hear all these inspiring stories, by the law of association, there is a very high chances you imbibe those stories and those learnings in your life. So that's why the law of association is one of the ways where you learn new things. So that's the law of association. And the second law of the brain is called the law of repetition. Friends, whatever you say, it could be the most boring thing to repeat one thing over and over again. But trust me, this is the most important law of the brain. You may learn anything, but if you do not repeat it, you will lose it. So the law of repetition is how your brain remembers. As you begin to repeat something over and over and over again, as I told you, we release these neurotrophins, the neurotrophic hormones, and the chemical which causes the neurons to stick together and become more enriched. So when you repeat something again and again, you make more and more connections in your brain, and your brain becomes that much more enriched and that much more intelligent, to perform that action. So repetition is the key to remember, to master, and it's very important. So just think about a braille reader, a person who's blind, and he uses the two fingers to read. And because he's done that so many times, there is a place, a real estate assigned inside your brain to these two fingers. And when you do a scan of that person, of the braille reader, and when you see his brain versus anybody else's brain, the connection in his brain, which is assigned to these two fingers, which he uses to read, is way more enriched, is way more enriched than anybody else, because he has repeated that thing over and over again, and now his brain is way more enriched than yours or mine, because he has used that so many times. So like that, anything which you have repeated over the years, you really have a skill, or a mastery over that, right? So the law of repetition helps you do that. So friends, again, let me say, the law of repetition is one of the most important law, because your thoughts leads to your actions, which leads to your feelings. And then when you repeat over and over again, it becomes a skill. And then when you repeat it many times, that's when it becomes easy, it becomes familiar. Initially it's difficult, it's not easy, but when you repeat it many times, then it's common, it becomes natural, it becomes automatic, it's a part of a routine. And as they say, what syncs together links together. So as you keep repeating that, it becomes a habit. You are it is effortless. You don't really have to try to do it. It becomes effortless, like brushing your teeth or driving a car. It is effortless. You don't really have to make an effort to do it, and it becomes a part of your second nature. It's subconscious now. It's unconscious, and that's why it's called implicit, because it's a part of your subconscious. You can do it unconsciously. You can wake up keeping your eyes closed, go to your bathroom, brush your teeth. I mean, it's just gone into your system, and your body moves when your brain grooves. So it just comes naturally to you because of the law of repetition. So friends, it's one of the most important law, and it works in everything. It works in meditation, it works in sports, it works in business, any education. The law of repetition really is one of the most important laws of the brain. So so friends, this is the journey of evolution, right? This is the journey to enlightenment, to be anything. You can be a enlightened victim, or you can be an enlightened abundant person, or you can be an enlightened meditator. So this is basically the journey. We all start here by being unconsciously unskilled. So what do you mean by unconsciously unskilled? What does that really mean? Unconsciously unskilled really means that you don't even know that you don't even know, right? That's bliss, right? You don't even know that you don't even know. So let me give you an example. Think about a boy and a cycle, a bicycle. So when a boy is 2 years, 3 years old, he doesn't even know that there is a bicycle that exists, right? Or when he's initially born, he doesn't even know that there exists a bicycle. So he is unconsciously unskilled. So he doesn't know about it, and he doesn't know how to ride it, right? So that's the first step. For anything, you are unconsciously unskilled. So many people don't know how to meditate, and many people don't even know about it, right? Now, slowly you moved. So the boy now became a little older. He's now 3, 4 year old, and he sees other people ride a bicycle. He sees, these other kids who are riding this bicycle, and he's very intrigued. He's like, wow, this is amazing. How could this piece of equipment make me go so fast? I always wanted to, do something like this. This is fascinating. And that's when he becomes consciously unskilled. Now he knows that there is a bicycle that exists, and now he knows that he doesn't know how to ride it, and he is consciously unskilled. So he learned that information in his brain. He learned that information that he is now consciously unskilled. So then he went to his father and he said, Dad, I want to, get a bicycle, and please, can you get me a bicycle? So his father says, okay, okay, buddy, let me get you a bicycle. So here he gets him a lovely bicycle, and and he starts teaching him how to ride. So that's when the son starts learning how to ride, and obviously he doesn't get it in the first go, and he falls a few times. He tries to match everything together. He doesn't know how to balance. He doesn't know how to pedal. He doesn't know how to press the brake, judge the distance, and it's extremely hard. I mean, the first day he thinks, I mean, it looked very fascinating, but I mean, I'm never going to get this, because it's extremely hard. And even the parents feel that, oh my god, would my son ever learn how to cycle? you know and we get more irritated than the kid also. But we try because the child really wants to try, and every day we try, and slowly he gets to learn how to cycle. So there's the first time he's learned how to cycle, and that's when he gets consciously skilled, right? So he's made a lot of effort, he's made a lot of compromises, he's fallen a few times, he's been brave, he's used his willpower, and he's learned how to cycle, and now he's become the third thing. Now he's become consciously skilled. Now he knows how to cycle. And friends, this is when most people stop in life. When they know how to do it, they will stop because it gets boring. You want to do something else. It gets very familiar to you because now you know how to do it, now you've learned. And I think even in meditation, a lot of people stop here because they feel they know how to meditate, right? They have learned it, they've done this workshop, that workshop, attended this, that, and they've got all the knowledge. हाँ ये भी किया है, हाँ ये भी किया, हाँ ईशा भी किया है, हाँ सदगुरु से तो मिला हूँ. I have met Jaggi Vasudevan, I have met Shri Ravi Shankar, I have met this, I have met Patri ji. I've got all the knowledge in the world, and I have learned all kind of meditation. I've ticked every box, which is there in the world of meditation. And a lot of people stop here because it gets they move, jump from one thing to another, and when they become consciously skilled, they feel they know it all, right? But the real challenge is to move beyond that, to move, to keep like that child who never stopped cycling. He went on doing it. He went on cycling for days, months, years, and he started becoming master at it, right? He could cycle, he could pedal at the same time, he could brake at the same time, he could do everything at the same time. He could leave his hands and cycle. He just started mastering that skill of cycling by the art of repetition. So most people stop by after being consciously skilled, but uh, the main thing is to go beyond it and become unconsciously skilled. So when you repeat something over and over again, you become unconsciously unskilled. Now, when you ask that child that how do you do all these things together? How do you cycle? How do you brake and turn and pedal and balance all at the same time? How do you manage it? And he's like, you know what? I was born to do it. I was meant to do it. Maybe I was a past life cycler, or so it just because he's repeated that thing over and over again. And I always give an example of my brother Shreans, that I've seen him meditate for every day. Like, he would miss his meals, but he would never miss his meditation. And for years, probably last 25 years, he's probably never missed a single day of his meditation. And if somebody asks him that, how do you do it, he would say that probably I was a born meditator or something. But I think it takes a lot of effort and practice to go beyond the consciously skilled stage. And the art of repetition makes you unconsciously skilled. It goes into your subconscious. Now, even if Shreyans doesn't want to meditate, his body will make him meditate. It becomes a part. It's like having a bath. Even if you don't want to have a bath, you will have a bath because it's gone into your subconscious. It's like, again, it's same like brushing your teeth. So this is the journey, friends. Whether this is how you can become an enlightened cycler or an enlightened meditator. We all start at knowing nothing, and then we slowly start to become consciously unskilled, then become consciously skilled, and slowly become unconsciously skilled. So the whole journey has to go there. And do not stop at the boredom. You might Why do you feel bored? Because you're getting familiar, because you're reaching that point of becoming unconsciously skilled. Once you reach that point and once you move on the other side, then nobody can stop you. like even your family would be like, oh my god, how is this guy, without a single day break, he's meditated through and through. So get beyond that point, make it automated, make it your second nature, get past that stage, and that's when mastery will come, that's when miracle will happen. And it's your willpower that will make it happen. So the first few times will be difficult, but once you repeat it diligently, with all the force and power, it will happen. And a lot of times your mind will say, no, don't do it later. But it's your willpower which needs to come in and make it a habit. Once you make it a habit, your body will automatically take you there. It will go in as a program. You don't really have to do anything. So that was one of the most important concept, friends. Now, another very important concept in neuroscience is called neural network. Also, it's called neural net. So basically, every time you learn something new, it gets stored in your brain, and each part of your brain stores different functions, and those functions are actually connected through this neural net. So let's say, about any skill, for example, cycling. So there would be a neural net for cycling, where all the connection has been made together about how to pedal, how to brake, how to, so it's basically a part of neural network. And we have these neural network in our brain. So it's basically the gangs of neurons that are fired and wired together to form a community of neurosynaptic connections that are related to a concept, idea, or a thought process, a memory, skill, behavior, or an action. So you use these neural nets, and it's a part of your brain. These neural nets form a part of your brain. And this is the beauty, friends. This is the beauty. These neural nets, so you know that you have neural nets in your brains, but these neural nets, how are they really formed? How can they be formed? Because these are the things which we actually use to run your day-to-day life. But how are they formed? So these neural nets are formed by the law of association, which we learning. How do we learn? By the law of association, along with the law of repetition, which is remembering, to create a new level of mind. So, by the learning and remembering, which is the law of association, or the law of repetition, you can actually create a new level of mind. You can create these neural networks. And this is how these neural nets are formed, physically formed in your brain. And they are the automatic hardware program that we unconsciously and automatically use every day. So once these neural networks are formed and created in your brain, these are the neural networks which we use unconsciously and automatically uh, to run our day-to-day lives. So friends, it is in our hands to create these neural networks in our brain, and these are the neural networks which becomes a part of our subconscious, and we use these to run our day-to-day life. So it's quite amazing how you can actually form the neural nets in our brain. So as I told you, one of the most important concept in neuroscience was nerve cells that fire together, wire together. Another, or the second most important uh, concept is nerve cells that no longer fire together, no longer wire together. So let me explain this to you. So every time, friends, every time you unmemorize an emotion, and we do that through meditations, we do that through our breath works, uh, that every time you unmemorize an emotion, you actually liberate a lot of energy, right? That's why it's very important to release the emotions that have been blocked in our body, blocked in different chakras of our body, blocked in different parts of our body, because every time you unmemorize those emotions, you release and you liberate a lot of energy. Now that same energy which you liberate and you release is used and is available to create a new reality, right? The same energy is there to create uh, a new reality, new future. So what happens is the neurotrophins which were actually connected to those old memories, now you have those neurotrophins available, those miracle glue available to create new connections. And as you fire and wire new information in your brain, you actually lose the old information and you make new connections in your brain. And that creates your new brain and your new body. So, let me give you an example. Imagine you are a person who is extremely angry, and you are not born an angry person. You've not carried it through your past lives. You became an angry person this life. So you were born nice and peaceful person, but in your teenage, probably your girlfriend dumped you, and you felt very hurt, very angry, uh, and you slowly started becoming an angry person. When you started becoming an angry person, your friends called you an angry person. Your family also labeled you as an angry person. You labeled yourself as an angry person, as a short-tempered person. So first, it was just an incident. It was a mood which turned into a temperament and which slowly turned into a personality trait. So that's how it starts. It starts from a mood to a temperament to a personality trait, and it becomes a part of your identity. Everybody recognizes you with that identity. So everybody started recognizing you as an angry person, as a short tempered person, gets affected very fast. Anytime anything happens, very reactive. So, and you are probably, after many years, you're probably fed up of this label and you want to change. You've attended a lovely workshop by Shreans Daga, and you really want to change. And he's motivated you a lot to become a peaceful person. And you've decided, now I'm going to meditate every day. No matter what, I will not get up from my meditation until I feel that level of peace. And I want to transform my anger into peace. Right? You have made that commitment to yourself. And when you make that commitment, you have that free will. You have that will as a human to change yourself, to change your identity. So what happens when you start, what physically starts happening inside your brain? And let me tell you that. So when you first start meditating, and when you have made up your mind that you do not want to be an angry person anymore, you start meditating, you go into your subconscious and you start saying that I'm a peaceful person, I'm a peaceful person, I'm a peaceful person. Day one, day two, day three, you start saying that to yourself. You start giving all the affirmations that I'm always calm, I'm peaceful. And there comes your angry brain, right? Because you have already so many connections attached, uh, and it's years of conditioning which you're trying to break. So your angry brain will come and say, no, 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 how can you ever be peaceful? Do you even know it's genes, it's genetic? You can never be peaceful. It's impossible. Why don't you start trying from Monday, maybe in the next life? You can never change this habit. It's is I mean, you've got it from your parents. So your brain will keep giving you all the excuses not to change, because whenever you're in the midst of change, it's that's when it becomes most challenging, because you're becoming more conscious of your unconscious program, right? You're becoming more and more conscious of your anger. You're becoming more and more conscious of that subconscious mind. And when you start doing that, you are actually in the midst of change, and that's when you need your willpower to go through that change. That's when you need to go on and on and on. And slowly what starts to happen is, because you're firing and wiring this new information in your brain that I'm peaceful, I'm peaceful, I'm peaceful, I'm peaceful, I'm peaceful, there is no room in your brain to be angry. Now what starts to happen is, slowly when you're firing and wiring this new information, the old information which is saying that you're an angry person, the neurotrophins which is attached to that being an angry person starts to release or lose its glue, right? So when the neurotrophin starts to release and lose its glue, there goes the connection that you're an angry person. There goes a connection that you're too much like your parents. There goes a connection that you will never change. There goes the connection that you're short tempered, and your brain actually starts to change. And the only signal that is there in your brain now is that you are a peaceful person. And the next time stressful events happen, on the next time the stock market falls 1,000 points, you don't feel angry. Or the next time your wife shouts at you, you don't feel angry. You're feeling so peacefully, and your wife is wondering how has this guy become so peaceful? Because your brain no longer has those old signals and those new connections. You have changed your brain completely, and the only signal that is in your brain is that you're peaceful, right? And and why does that happen? So this is not some new age science, friends. This is how it is in neuroscience. This is called pruning. So you prune away the old connections to make the new connections, and the only connection is in your brain is that you are a peaceful person, and you have created yourself. You have the power to create it yourself, and is the universal law. If you don't use it, you lose it. So when you don't use the connections of being an angry person, you have changed your personality of being an angry person. You have lost those connections, and your brain has physically changed, and now you're a peaceful person. And when somebody asks you, how did that happen? You were such an angry person, and you feel, like even you don't realize, because you feel, that's true. Earlier, if that happened, I would have been uh, so reactive and so angry, but I'm not angry anymore, and you feel great about yourself. And where does all that knowledge, and where does all that intellect goes? It goes as wisdom. And where is it stored? It is stored as wisdom in the soul, because it's not a part of your brain anymore. So you have become a wiser person. You have transformed, and you have mastered this part of your anger. You have turned your anger into peace. So I hope you understand that. And that is the power of our brain. So when you know, so two laws, friends, again, let me repeat: nerve cells that fire together, wire together. So like you wired being peaceful, 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 you became peaceful. You could wire being a meditator and meditate every day, you will become Buddha. You will, whatever you want, you can wire become being a victim, you will become a enlightened victim. Whatever you wire and fire, you will create that as your reality, and that's how you will transform your brain. So I think from here we come to an end of neuroscience. So the first law was nerve cells that fire together, wire together. But the second law, and a very important law, is nerve cells that no longer fire together, no longer wire together. So you have the ability to transform your old thoughts into new thoughts, your old habits into new habits, and the law of repetition will make you do that, friends. So let me just show you a video where we'll show you in real time how it happens.
You can break the habit of your old emotional and mental programming. Let me explain. Anything you do, think, or feel is due to the connections between your brain cells called neurons. A thought, feeling, or physical action is created when neurons communicate with each other. When you learn to walk, ride a bike, play piano, new neuron connections are formed. By practicing over and over, those neuron connections become stronger and faster. They become an automatic habit. Your mind can evolve, and you can create the thought and emotional habits that lead to success and happiness. You see, your automatic habits form a vast neural network in your brain, and whenever you have a thought or emotion, your neuron connections get activated. By changing your mind with new thoughts, you will change your life. By practicing your thoughts and emotions over and over every day, they become automatic. So what are you practicing for every day? Anger, depression, frustration, disappointment? You can change your life. You can change your life by creating new neural pathways. You create new neuron connections by practicing over and over the thoughts and feelings of the success and happiness you desire. Accelerate the right connections in your mind so that you think, feel, believe, and act in ways that are consistent with the vision you have of your life. You can break old unhealthy habits and create new habits for success and happiness. By stopping your old unhealthy thinking and emotional patterns, those neuron connections grow weaker and disconnect. You can disconnect thinking and emotional patterns that may have been sabotaging your success and holding you back. You can break the habit of your old programming. Change your mind and you will change your life. You are well on your way to creating the masterpiece that is you.
So you saw, friends, you can change your life by changing your mind. And this is not a new age science. This is how it really works inside your brain. You saw how pruning, and that was a real time, by the way. You saw how pruning happened, how you made new connections. So every time you learn something new, you make this connection. And it really fascinated me when I saw these videos, physical videos of people actually make these synaptic connections, and even when they are throwing a new thought, how physically these connections are being made in the brain. So it's extremely fascinating, and I think it's very important to know this, because you can use it, you can literally use it in your day-to-day life to change a new level of mind. So when we went to Berlin to attend an 8-day workshop of Joe Dispenza, and it would start at 4 a.m. in the morning and go on till 8 in the night. And we would do these hours of meditation, and sometimes some of us could do this meditation by attaching a machine where our brains were getting monitored real time while we were meditating. So it was extremely fascinating, because we could see the recording of our brain getting monitored real time, and how we were making these synaptic connections, how we our brain waves were going from. And I'll talk about that, yeah, in brain waves and chakras, in brain waves especially, that how we were going into different kind of brain waves, and how these physical changes were happening in our brain real time while we were meditating, while we are throwing a new thought. And it was almost like a game, and it's really fascinating where science is gone to tell us that our thoughts can literally transform our life and our body. So it's quite amazing. Yeah, the best way to get rid of any bad habits is learn a new habit, which is a good habit, right? So I mean, the only way to do it is to transform into a new habit, which is a good habit. So let's say you want to learn how to uh, leave. Let's say you want to leave smoking or drinking. The only way to do it is stop doing it, and start taking care of your body, right? So let's say you start doing meditations, you start doing workouts, you go into programs which is avoiding these things. A lot of people, a lot of these people take a 40-day challenge. So I think you do something which is countering the bad habit, and create it into a routine. I think that is very important. Make it repetitive, which is a good habit. So if you've left smoking for 40 days, try it for 4 months. Leave it, and slowly it will get into a habit. It will go out of your system, right? And especially, I feel that when the craving also goes away, right? You slowly, you will when you emotionally work on your system, you can actually let your craving also change, right? So a lot of times people fast, and they're thinking about is food, right? So I mean, you will go get back when you break your fast, you're going to eat double. that's not the point. The idea of doing a fast is uh, to cleanse your body, or to uh, to give your to detox your body. So you have to enjoy the process, right? And you have to really enjoy the process. It cannot be a forced measure. Otherwise you're going to get back to it, even in a bad way. And it has to come from within, right? It has to come from within, that okay, now I want to leave this. We know a lot of friends who've become vegetarian. It came from within. And when they became vegetarian, initially it was difficult, but slowly it became a habit, and now they feel very good. It becomes a part of their life. So I think whatever you do should eventually become a part of your life. It cannot be like a diet. You do it for 8 days, and then it goes away. So try to make it come from within, and do these meditations so that it changes you from within. You can enter the subconscious and change. And that's what repetition does. And repeated affirmations will make it happen.
Varun, the next question is, how does one change the patterns? They say we've been trying to break our old patterns, but they're finding it very difficult to break the and how to build a better willpower.
Sure. So, I mean, Rome was not built in a day, right? I remember one of the Kabir's Doha, where he says, "Dheere dheere re mana, dheere sab kuch hoye. Mali सींचे 100 घड़ा, ritu aaye fal hoye." So that means, "Dheere dheere re mana" means, oh mind, be patient, right? Slowly everything will happen. Slow and steady wins the race. Everything will happen when the time comes. Even if even if you're a gardener and you put 100 times you water the plants, but the fruits will come only when the season comes, right? So you have to keep doing, right? And the fruits will come. It will surely come, and it will transform. So you have to give it time. And sometimes it can come fast, sometimes it could take time. But as long as you're on the path, enjoy the process. No, I mean, just enjoy the journey. The when, how much, all that, leave it to the universe. It'll give it to you the best way possible. It'll give it to you when you never expect it, right? Just be on the path, enjoy the process, and every day, bit by bit, you will improve and it'll happen. So, friends, now let me get into brain waves and chakras. It's very important to understand brain waves and chakras. So, as Indians, we have always talked about chakras and different parts of chakras. We have 7 main chakras, and then we have even more chakras, but the 7 are the main chakras. And we have always learned that we store a lot of information in these chakras. We store a lot of emotions, unresolved emotions in these chakras, and a lot of our diseases arise out of these chakras. So we'll talk about how chakras and how balancing these chakras can help us. But before going into chakras, I want to take some time to understand brain waves. Brain waves as a concept is not very well known with the Indian community, especially, uh, and less known worldwide. But I think is as important as understanding chakras, and how we are in different parts, at different times we are in different brain waves, and why it is important to meditate. A lot of people, a lot of times people ask me that, why is it important to meditate? What is the reason? Why should I meditate? I'm anyways happy, it's fine. But when you understand brain waves, when you understand that you are in different brain waves, in different parts of the day, in different times, then you will understand that how you can actually enter your subconscious by using the brain waves and by the method of meditation. And that will answer a lot of your questions also, how to change, and how to change faster than normal, right? A lot of times, you really try very hard, and so let me give you an example. So sometimes you want to become very, very wealthy, for example, and you want to earn a lot of money, and you're really trying to earn a lot of money, and you have a vision that you want to earn 10 crore, and you're really trying hard, and every day you're unhappy that you're very far from that vision, right? So if your if your vision is not aligned with your feelings, you want to be abundant but you're feeling lack, right? So it's very hard to do it in a normal state. When you're feeling lack, if you're feeling lack, you're going to attract more of the lack, right? So the idea is to feel abundant, to feel that you already have it, whether it comes or not, it doesn't really matter. Once you start feeling that you already have it, you have already made the change, there is hardly any resistance, there won't be any fear of losing what you have because you're already abundant, right? There is no fear, and when there is no fear and when there is no lack, abundance is a natural process, it is a natural process of being. So let me go into the brain waves and chakras, and that will answer a lot of your questions of how to manifest anything in your life, how to create anything in your life, by getting into the subconscious.